everyone. Let me introduce myself. I am Dana, the other half of the Morning Louie podcast. I am a cosplay event and con staff photographer for conventions such as Dragon Con, MomoCon, Anime Week in Atlanta, Ranger Stop and Pop, and more. I do a little voice acting, event planning, and a whole lot more. Tonight, we are going to have on the discussion of the hit movie, Disney's Encanto. So I am so excited to have three amazing people that are going to be joining me tonight to discuss it and have our show opinions, dive deep. Disney, if you're watching, you may want to bring us on. These amazing people that are going to be part of this panel. So let me bring them to the front. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Louie podcast. And we had to play a little instrumental. All right. And as we're getting ready to get started, I want to go ahead and make sure we introduce our special guest to tonight's After Dark discussion. We're going to start from your right, probably my left. We're going to have each person to introduce themselves and tell a little bit about themselves before we get started. So I'm going to start with my right.
Would that be me?
Yes, you.
I don't know how this goes. I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Lizzette, aka I am Seal the Ecstasy. I am a cosplayer. I am a special education teacher. I teach 11th grade, ELA, social studies, and chemistry. Weird. And I am also a mother to a wonderful little boy who's about to turn 10. And I am obsessed with all things Sailor Moon. I don't know if you see what's behind me. Like my little statues and everything like that. And I'm just really happy to be here because I've been obsessed with Encanto since Christmas.
I think we all are a little obsessed with it.
It's bad. My son is just like, and that's Oliver. Don't mind him. I'm sorry.
Oliver likes to be part of the moment. He thinks he's Simba.
Yeah, he really does.
Mm-hmm. And there he goes. He jumps.
Right.
And next, we'll introduce our next person on our panel. Right below me, we have royalty in the house, the Prynz. John, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Prince John Leeper. My pronouns are they, them, or they, them, if you have a little tongue twister moment. I am a freelance digital marketing, mainly social media strategist. I am a huge proponent of being your best self, dismantling, familial trauma. And this is why I'm here, because Encanto, I know it hit all of us in multiple different ways. My nerdisms, anime, graphic novels, video games. I'm really trying hard not to spend some money on this Pokemon Arceus for my Switch. That's a later conversation for some folk. But I'm glad to be here and I look forward to having this conversation.
All right. And last, but certainly not least, the man of the hour. We have Mr. Demarius. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Demarius Newsome. I guess I'm one of the more conventional of the other guests we have on here today. I'm an attorney here in Georgia, is where I practice. Also, you see in the label, I'm a brother of Phi Mu Alpha Psi Fraternity of America Incorporated. And that's pretty much a lot of necessarily what I do. So music is a lot of my thing, but my particular nerdisms are Disney. For anybody who knows me well, knows that I know the majority of the Disney catalog and not all of it like the back of my hand. Immediately following it right behind that one is everything pertaining to Avatar: The Last Airbender. Those are my primary two that I always pivot in between.
Water
Tribe.
Fire Nation, what? Well, hold on, wait. It's the wrong podcast for all this.
hey, Tweet, calm it down a little bit.
All right.
That may be another after dark. We have y'all come back. We're going to discuss Avatar. You know, we may have to do that, man.
Are you sure you want those problems from me?
I think she wants those problems, twin. I think she wants those problems.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I mean, just like in Encanto, people gotta, we gotta dissect Avatar because there's some lessons in Avatar. People be sleeping on it, and you just don't realize.
And
not the blue Avatar, but the last Airbender Avatar.
Correct. The animated series, because there is no movie in Ba Sing Se. But this is not an Avatar discussion. We're talking about Encanto. So
yes, exactly. So be on the lookout. We will be, be on the lookout for that announcement. So when we have that for our next one of our After Dark series. So to get started, okay, we got a little shout out to Demarius right here. So, all right. Okay, I hope everybody in the audience, you have watched it because we're going to have some spoiler alerts. So I'm going to go ahead and say it now. Spoiler alerts. If you haven't watched it, I did schedule this until now because I was trying to give the grace period. You had almost 2 months to watch it. So now that's on you. All right. So let's get into the discussion. The movie is known as being centered around the candle. The spirit, the magic is abuelo or grandfather Pedro. The spirit, the magic. Give your thoughts. Whoever wants to talk first.
Oh no, you had the spice earlier, twin. Go ahead.
I did because it was less about the candle and more about the river. It's like on the one hand, we could see how Abuelo Pedro could be the spirit of the candle or the overall magic on the basis that as soon as he dies, protecting his wife, his children, and the rest of his people, that's then when the candle glows, it gets the butterfly emblem, it shoots out all the magic and creates the Encanto. And how there's always hints about Pedro being in the house through the portrait, always specific focusing on his paintings or Abuela Alma's particular prayer to him saying, open my eyes to see the problem. On the other hand, if Abuelo Pedro is the spirit of the magic, and that spirit of the magic is represented by the candle that never went out up until the events of the movie, then if it did go out, wouldn't that then mean that Abuelo Pedro's spirit is then no longer present?
That's a good question. I would argue even if his spirit is not quote unquote present in that moment because it went out, I think it's multiple parts of him. I firmly believe Casita is him. No one can change my mind on that. I think that the relationship that Casita has with the family is Pedro interacting with his family. And I think because of Abuela's attachment to that traumatic event, rightfully so, is when things start going awry. It takes away from that miracle. It takes away from the magic of the family. She loses her place of why it all happened. And so I think I wouldn't say that he is the miracle. He is the magic. I think that he's more of a conduit of it. I think his sacrifice, for people non-religious, I'm sorry, I'm a Christian, so I'm leaning into it. Sacrifices mean things. Even if you're not a Christian in other religions or whatever, sacrifices stand in the place of things that are very important. And so, sorry, that threw me for a second. And so I think he is not the source of the magic, but he's the conduit therein that causes it to come into the plane of existence that they're in. And when everything goes down, I think that not so that he's absent from being with the family, but the family lost through Abuela's not processing and kind of passing down her issues. He doesn't have that attachment to them anymore. And then once they go through that, musical montage and everything, that brings him back into the place of where, and remembering the why of why, everything went down and bringing the magic back.
I kind of definitely see that aspect because for myself, it was, I like y'all were saying, we see that he passes on and it's kind of like, I call it like that bridge of like from the movie Ghost. It's like he has his presence there to protect the family in his own way. But then, of course, with time and not understanding the true connection to the candle and casita, it's like, okay, that because of that, like John was saying, that connection became weaker and weaker because it was not the focus that he's whatever, if it was truly abuelo or if it was something else that was given to protect the family, to keep them safe and keep them together. And then it became refocused as this is your duty to everyone but the family. And it kind of lost that genuine connection that it's supposed to have. So I definitely kind of I that was my perspective of it. And I know Lizzette will be joining us back shortly. She's having connection issues, so she's disconnecting and trying to reconnect. So we'll continue while we are waiting for her to come right back and everything. Now, all right. Go ahead.
Real quick. No, because Twin, you just said something real profound about the sacrifices, right? Because you said sacrifices mean things, right? Remember earlier we were talking about the river, how the river itself could actually be the source of the magic, because it was at the river where at Abuelo Pedro's death is what began the Encanto, and then it was Mirabel's and Abuela's reconciliation of the river that then restored it. What if the sacrifice that really is the source of the magic, that is the deeper message in the movie, is a sacrifice of self for the betterment of others?
I was just thinking that, because I was thinking about how they shifted their mindset to where doing sacrifice of self out of obligation versus sacrifice of self out of love.
Exactly.
Why the magic starts to fade, because you're not doing it out of love, you're doing it out of obligation or pressure, or we all love surface pressure. That's why I did my Louisa makeup, because it's kind of just like, ooh, this hit too close to home.
It's a bop.
It's a bop.
But it was definitely like, I really feel like that. I wholly agree with you. Maybe, I know we had our conversation earlier. For those who don't know, we were talking earlier before this, and I was like, save it for the stream. But we were talking about how Twin was saying that maybe it was more so the river that was the source of the magic. And I wish Lizzette was here, because she had brought up that it's an act based off a real location that people actually go to for miracles. And I was saying, I think it's more than that. I think it's deeper than that. And Twin alluded me here now. It's like, I definitely think it's the sacrifice of self out of love, out of genuine love for family, that makes the magic happen. And that's relatable, because in our day-to-day, we see magnificent things happen in our family when we're not doing it for ourselves and not doing it because we feel like we're forced to or have to. There's joy in giving yourself up for the people you love.
Exactly. And I love the fact you brought that up, because and Lizzette brought that up in the chat. Like you said, that river's known for its miracles, and the fact that the movie, I did a post that I found online, was talking about how they made sure they put all these significant places and things from Colombia in the movie, from the bridge that they cross over to that river. Everything is parts of Colombia. But then, like you were saying with sacrifice, it's like that sacrifice of love at that river activated the miracle that they needed. And then, but because Abuela didn't see it as a sacrifice of love, it saw as its miracle that is been given to us as our duty, then it distorted the whole miracle and began to weaken it.
I would push back a little bit on that one. While Abuela Alma has her issues, I wouldn't say necessarily that she didn't recognize the Encanto as a sacrifice of love, but from the place of her hurt is where she responded.
Yes, I would agree.
Because the sacrifice of the love of her life is then what gave her this miracle.
Exactly.
So to her, it's like she's attaching that trauma to the Encanto. Even to the point in which when the Encanto was cracking, everyone's paying attention to it, the first thing she says, "Why didn't you tell me that you had found Bruno's vision?" And then he was like, no, I was thinking about my daughter. She's like, look at our home. We got to save our home.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing that she's always going to until she recognizes that home is not in the brick, in the mortar of the place where you stay, but in the love, in the hearts of those that you care about. Wow.
I think some of that is because the second and third generation are separated from the cause, the trauma that she actually faced. And that for her, it's the fact that she lost her home, that she lost her family, essentially. Like outside of those 3 children, I'm a firm believer that, you know, if the choice is between the person you love and the child, I'm picking the person I love. So it's like, she lost her family. She had no relationship outside of bearing these children. She doesn't know these children, but the love of her life gave himself up for her. They don't know that. They don't see that. And I can see why she's so very much attached to the miracle in its more tangible sense of Casita versus where they're saying the miracle is our family. And Agustin and Julieta are like, and of course, Agustin, if you guys have ever done any like TikTok deep dives or anything, he's not even from Encanto. He's a businessman who came in and saw everything, fell in love with Julieta, and decided to stay. So he literally has no attachment to the miracle outside of like literally everyone else. So he's like, I'm here for my daughter. Like I can almost hear him saying, y'all's attacking to this miracle is a little, but I'm gonna let y'all have it. Like, so Abuela, I will say she's the antagonist, but I would never call her a villain because she's acting out of her own unresolved trauma. And the Casita is her, how do I put this? Casita is her tangible result of said trauma, whereas for everyone else, it's the family that is a tangible result of a trauma that she didn't experience. Hi, Lizzette.
And I think it's a lot of that.
I have the technical difficulties. I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right. We let them know we're going to be talking. We're going to be talking. But one thing I always notice about Abuela is like they always say when you have a form of trauma, you associate or put your energy into something else so you don't have to reflect on that hurt. So her energy was always the family has to help the community. We're given these powers to protect the community. So getting, Luisa, everybody had to use their powers for something within the community. And then you saw in the memory reflections that Mirabel was having that you also saw the when they did flashbacks of Abuela sad, crying, but then it's time to go out, put the shawl on and walk out with a candle. But she only had that time to really to have her emotions only in that room, but only for that short period. And then she had to go and be that strong one. We got to protect everybody. And she was using that as, I don't want to say unhealthy, crutch or anything, but that was unhealthy for her because she lost the view onto her family. That was the most precious thing because that miracle saved their family and all those people.
I just thought about as you were saying that, as I remember, because I had rewatched the movie to prep for this, no one ever asked her to do anything. No one, she took it upon herself to take that miracle and be like, okay, we were blessed. And so now I'm responsible for saving everyone and putting that. She decided to redirect her trauma into being useful and pass that habit down to the next generations. Because when I was rewatching it, I was just like, your history, when we look at those flashbacks, you were just kind of someone in the village. You found someone that you fell in love with, and you as a village decided to escape, and his sacrifice, produced this miracle, and, everything else happened. Nobody asked you to be the village leader. You chose to do so, and that's perfectly fine and valid, but you put that pressure on yourself and then pass that pressure on to the little next generations.
And the next generation.
Exactly. And then don't have that same attachment. And when they don't live up to what in your mind was what needed to be done, in Bruno's case and in Mirabel's case, you essentially emotionally bully them out of the family because they are not living up to what you decided was something that needed to be done. And
Mhm.
I can see why that at the end, when the village all showed up to help them rebuild Casita with or without magic, it shocked her because they hadn't done that, you know. She chose to do that. And they're like, well, no, you didn't have to. We're here to help you. You can lean on us. We can
Yes.
support you. We didn't
Right.
ask for this.
Lay down your load. We're only down the road. That's right there in the song.
Exactly.
And to go back to what you were saying about how she put that pressure on herself and then put the pressure then on the subsequent generations, it then gets to a point where the movie itself, when I think about it, kind of also pivots between love and obligation.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, the pressure is to use your gifts to serve the community. Eventually, only suiting to out of obligation. To the point, and that's why Louise started cracking under pressure, because she's literally the animal wrangler and the construction person and literally everybody else. But I'm like, so y'all can't ride. I'm like, so y'all can't ride your own animals. Y'all can't move, this kind of thing. So Louise is like running all this kind of thing, and then she's cracking under that pressure because she's like, I didn't ask for this.
Yes.
Right.
But I keep being told I have to do this.
Right. She was like a little while back, two people decided to get intimate. I showed up here. I touched a magic doorknob at 5 years old. Lo and behold, I'm Superwoman, and now now I'm the city planner and the city manager. Like,
yo.
And you saw that she was walking, Louisa, the donkeys, Louisa, my house is crooked. It's like, so yes, it definitely was one of those that it's just like you said, those generations, as you get further removed, they don't have that same connection. And unfortunately, they had a deeper pressure, like you said, pressure and obligations that they are being told that they have to meet, that, you know, it was starting to affect them emotionally and physically with their abilities. So, yeah, we got a lot of comments coming in the chat. We have...
You sure didn't. I want to bring up the comment that Chantel had made about the family where the miracle was Abuela's trauma. And I want to bring back what I said about the other generations being removed. And the conversation we had in chat and prep for this was that for everyone else, this is a miracle. But I would argue that for Abuela, this is kind of a generational curse.
Yes.
Because these miracles, these gifts that her family have is a literal day-to-day reminder of the loss of the love of her life.
Yeah.
And the civil war that had happened, and literally watching him be butchered in front of her.
Right.
And so she's passing this down to not deal with those emotions. And while everyone else is kind of like, you know, oh God, we're doing great. These miracles are great. And never, she's like, okay, I have to literally remember every day what happened. And you can see that when you look at the beginning of the movie, when she's talking about what had happened, it's a real sanitized version. And at the end, when she's recanting it with Mirabelle, it's a lot more visceral and emotional and very much, okay, I'm going to deal with this now, and I'm going to tell you the truth of what actually happened. It's not, oh, well, the miracle happened and he gave up his life and all this magic happened. No, it's like, no, we were ran down by horses. They had machetes and they massacred him in front of us.
Right.
And through that sacrifice that he tried to stop them and give us time to get, like, you know, she's actually telling what happened. And the balance of what Chantel is talking about, the way that I see that is that everyone else is getting joy. It's supposed to be getting joy and love and happiness from this. But for her, she's passing down the pain and the trauma of what happened, because these gifts are a literal day-to-day physical manifestation of what had happened to her.
Yes.
And at the same time, not only are they a physical manifestation of what actually happened, but it's her guaranteed coping mechanism to be able to make it to the day-to-day.
Yes.
Because if you remember, for everything else going on, Abuela Alma is chilling. She's happy, keeping up the house. The moment the cracks and everything else starts happening, she knows she saw them cracks. She's been seeing those cracks. Because Bruno Hernando has been fixing all the cracks in the back of the house. So clearly they've been happening for a while now. And yet she's like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Because if I can put on a face, I don't have to deal with what is here behind me. And I understand that, and I recognize that, because that's a lot of things that a lot of us necessarily do. Sometimes we will lean upon a coping mechanism that is at least getting us to the day-to-day. when there's a whole realm of unhealed or unresolved or so very, very tender trauma that we are still dealing with. But at the same time, the reason why I would also agree, in a sense, that Abuela Alma is not quite a villain, more so an antagonist, is because the fact that her actions then had a negative consequences on everyone else around her. The moment that I would say she's kind of stepped into villainy, just a little bit, is particularly because of the fact she personally victimized Mirabel because she did not get a gift. And Mirabel had to sit with that for 10 years. Her daughter had to sit with that for 10 years. Her son-in-law had to sit with that for 10 years. Both of her sisters also had to sit with that because both of her sisters recognized what was going on. But they were, what were they doing? They were hiding behind their gifts the best they could and abiding by all of her expectations to avoid that
being treated that same way.
Because if you notice, the only two of the grandchildren who are really doing a lot of extra work around the Encanto are Isabella and Luisa. Luisa is running the whole town, and then Isabella is preparing to sacrifice her own life and her own well wishes just to meet the expectations of her abuela for the purposes of the family.
And I would agree slightly with you because I still don't want to call her a villain because I think it attaches too much of a negative connotation. I don't think she was malicious in her intentions. I think that, like I was saying, like Mirabel not getting a gift is the first step that a lot of people take when they're resolving their inner traumas, and they don't recognize or are not ready to resolve said inner traumas. And as someone who's been in therapy for almost a decade now, who has dealt with a lot of family influence traumas and stuff like that, it's very much more painful to recognize that you are coping in an unhealthy way. And so you reject anything that's going to remind you that you are coping in an unhealthy way. It's like the rock in the shoe thing in the rock in the shoe experience. You get used to it up to a certain point. You forever recognize that there's a rock in your shoe. But when someone's trying, it's going to be more painful to take off the shoe and take the rock out and then readjust and relearn how to walk without said rock in your shoe than it is to just, deal with it. So unfortunately, I totally agree with you slightly because I really don't want to use the word villain because too many people take villain and think Maleficent, Scar, the whole nine. She's not.
Well, I mean, at the same time, you also have a whole crowd of people who say that Maleficent was justified, even though she cursed a child for really no particular reason. And no, the live action remake is not canon, and I stand on that. And people saying, well, you know what, Mufasa should have treated Scar better. I'm an older brother of 4 other siblings. No matter how upset I may get at any one of those 4, for whatever the reason, it's never going to drive me to kill anyone.
To kill him and his son.
Straight villains all the way over. So there's always going to be a case that's been made for villains to be sympathetic with. But I'll say that she's not a villain, but some of her actions stepped into villainy, especially when she started blaming Mirabel for things that were not her fault.
Yes.
Precisely. And you know what? I am not Hispanic or Colombian descent, so I can't speak on how their families interact. But I will say in the Black community and just in the conversation I've seen on social media, that is something a lot of people of color elders do, is they will project and blame the younger generations. And even if it's not our fault, even if we had literally nothing to do with it, if we are attached to what could potentially be the fallout, we are going to be the punching bag for their coping, which is what she did for Mirabel.
And I'm just going to jump in right now. I'm going to jump in. So for me, I felt like Abuela definitely was the villain because Abuela reminded me of my own mother and my great aunt, who both are, my mother's side of the family is Puerto Rican, Native American. And my great aunt was Native American. And, they had a heap of appearances and they both deal with a lot of trauma growing up. So when I came about, here is this child, first of all, Black child, and I am reading at I had this gift of reading at an early age. I've been reading since I was 3. I questioned everything, and I was picking up things so fast while my mother was dealing with a lot of things growing up. So long story short, I was considered the outcast of the family because of I questioned everything. I wasn't living up to their expectations. They thought I was gonna like take care of them in their old age. I'm like, pause. I'm going to college and I'm gonna be a teacher and I'm gonna have a family. I have to take care of myself. So sorry, not sorry. Get a nurse because it's not gonna be me, And so for me, Abuela reminded me so much of my mother. I was like literally traumatized. So like my sister, I have a little sister who did take care of her mother. I wasn't taking care of her. Who took care of my mother and father up until the day they died. And like, all the scenes where the abuelas belittling Mirabelle, my sister's just looking at me like, and I'm looking at her like, yeah, I know. So for me, abuela felt like a villain only because of my traumatic experiences growing up. And my only thing is why I love the movie, but also know that it is a complete fairy tale is one, the scene where Mirabelle is belittling Abuela. I'm like, she ain't slap her with a chicleta? Like, no shoe, no belt, no slap across the face. Because had I yelled at my Abuela, my mother, or my great aunt, I would have got a fist to the face so fast. But then two, at least at the end of the movie, they were able to repair the trauma. And I didn't get to have that closure with both my great aunt died and then my mother died of cancer. And the last thing I said to my mother, like she called me fat and I said, when is the cancer going to kill you? So that being said, like I didn't get the closure that I wanted. So whether her actions, although yes, it was her dealing with her trauma and her placing those traumas generationally throughout the whole entire family and Mirabelle pretty much putting an end to that trauma, I definitely could relate to. And I'm glad that Abuela seen and opened up her eyes and realized what was going on. Unfortunately, in real life, I didn't get to have that. So, of course, seeing how Abuela was acting towards Mirabelle, I was just like, it's my mother. So it really, for me personally, like it definitely hit home a little bit too close.
Yeah. Now I'm going to read some of the comments because, like I said, our comments are going. As you see on the screen, we have and good for Abuela for recanting it at the end because so many elders don't want to acknowledge things that cause them trauma. Mm-hmm. Then we also have here the family only focused on the fact that they got the miracle from Abuela, but they got her traumas too. When your parents teach you, they teach you their good and the bad. The miracles are just easier to see. Mm-hmm. And then we also see here that I don't know names yet, but the young lady in the gray while conversation reminded me about the song Surface Pressure, which resonate in Louisa. Knowing all of the people's families means she hears knowing everything like Dolores. She heals the land like Julieta. And heals the people. She felt the need for everything to be perfect like Isabella. She was the gift less leader, etc.
Come on, Mirabelle. Yeah.
Encanto doesn't really have a bad guy because it literally telling how the land and the family are internal manifestations of Abuela. And then I have here also, she is an antagonist, not a villain. So I got a lot of people on that same page, but which kind of goes in as a lot of the references everybody talk about. Disney is known for their Easter eggs in their movie. Mm-hmm. Talk about your favorite Easter egg in the movie.
I'm going to say that my favorite little Easter egg that I didn't recognize the first time or even the second time I had watched it, was the fact that their clothing matches the gifts that they have. And then on top of that, Mirabelle's actually has notations from literally everyone else's gift. So either whether it be the color or the symbology, she has everyone else's, including Bruno's, who she technically had never had any type of interaction with. So I was just like, ooh, that's really nice that she's the manifestation of the gift, and like she's the centerpiece now. I thought that was really dope, and I loved it, and I love that kind of attention to detail.
I also go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was also going to say, just commenting on Mirabelle's dress. I also love how her base dress design is actually really, really simple, but that she herself made the rest of the ornamentations and everything else on her own dress. And just like everybody else's dress or shirt or shoes or anything else matches their gift, in her case, she made her own. To the same point in which, at the very end, when she put the doorknob into the door, it said, it's vested in her.
Well, my favorite Easter egg definitely had to be coming from Bruno, when he's singing the song in the All of You song, and he goes, "Let it in, let it out, let it go, let it go." I was like, oh, you brought back Frozen. I'm never gonna be rid of this, and I love it.
And it'd be the song that beat Frozen too.
Exactly.
Exactly. But the fact that they put that in, and of course him taking the salt and the sugar and throwing it in the air like snow, and you hear the piano, which they had to give it credit for at the end. Like I watched the credits, so I want to see the next they put the Easter egg in for the next movie in it, in the credits. So I had to sit there and watch it. And so I was like, yes, Frozen, but lo and behold, look what happened. I'm like, well, we don't talk about Bruno's the number one song. It beat Frozen. Disney has not had a number one song since, like, on the Billboard charts since Peabo Bryson's, I forgot the other lady's name. Oh, please forgive me, Lord.
Regina Bell.
Regina Bell.
Yes, Regina Bell. Thank you. God, I'm old. Since their version of A Whole New World. So yes. I was like, wow. But for me, that did it for me, because I love Moana. I connected very well with Moana, but of course it all started with Elsa for me. I was just like, yes, like when you were the outcast, you just like, you know what? I'm gonna let everything go. I'm just gonna go ahead, and that's exactly what I did. Like, I moved out, like I got kicked out, and I didn't look back. I was like, yes, I'm gonna let everything go, and I just flourished. So yeah, so that was my favorite Easter egg.
Now, for me, I noticed, and I was pointed out to my sister when I was watching it a second time with her, is where Mirabelle was staying. You see that she is the maker of the clothing and everything, including she made Antonio's gift, which was an animal, and then his ability was with animals, but her dress and everything had the encompassing of everybody's powers on it. So that was her way of connecting. But it was like you got that little sneak peek that she of also being connected to the miracle, because her making these items, even for Antonio, what she made became his power.
Right.
So I thought that was a cute little Easter egg they put in there. But then you had the references of Colombia throughout the movie, which was another beautiful thing we were talking about earlier, of the bridge. But then I love the fact that I ended up learning about this later on, is the team worked with Liliana Valencia, an Afro-Latina, who was giving them the history and information to help build the everything for the movie. So they worked with an Afro-Latina to get that information, and I love that fact. So that was like another little nugget. So we were able to see that bridge they walked across is the actual bridge. The river that we saw is an actual river in Colombia. So it wasn't just this made up place that the Encanto was located at. It actually had references of stuff that is in Colombia. So it kept it still connected to the country and everything, which was lovely. Let's see in the comments.
Disney definitely does do. I'm tired, but forgive my English, okay? Disney does their homework. There we go. That's how it's trying.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, in recent years, at least in the recent movies that are more cultural based and less kind of like fairy tale based, I Disney has done or tried their best to do their homework in making sure representation is, a thing. The fact that majority of the cast are Afro-Latina or of Colombian descent. A lot of them are on TikTok, and I started following them, and I'm like, yeah, there's dark-skinned, Afro-Latina or Latin people in this, and like representation is a whole thing. I'm like, Disney, sometimes the House of Mouse gets it. The girls that get it get it.
Can we just talk
And
about
we're-
how Theo Felix really looks like the actor who the voice
Thank
actor
you.
really looks like Theo Felix? I think you are adorable and I love you and I love your smile. Oh my god, you're so lindo. I love him so much.
Felix is the gem. Theo Felix is the gem.
Yes,
He is.
yes. That yeah, we're gonna get into Tio in a little bit. We have to talk about him. Okay, I'm gonna go into my next question. A lot of people, because as soon as the movie came out, it became a big thing of Dolores, her look and everything. But Dolores has the ability to hear even the drop of a pin, no matter where. Do you think she has the ability to like turn her powers off, kind of like what Peter Parker talking about with Miles Morales? Like, do you turn yours off, or do you think she has to listen to everything and have to mentally process dealing with hearing all that from 5 years old when you get your gift?
I think if we look at how like the hearing people develop, how they develop the ability to hear, without any other type of issues or things, you learn how to tune things out with white noise and stuff like that and all that type of experience. So I think it's not something she can turn off, but it's more of a conscious decision to pay attention to what is being said. And we obviously know she is the family secret keeper. She is the one who hears everything. I think she just is able to, in her mind, shift things to being white noise, or something's being like, oh, wait, there's some juicy gossip.
She's back.
So it's like, I don't think she has the ability to turn it off per se, just like how Louisa doesn't have the ability to turn off her strength. It's just more so, what is she going to be paying attention to?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to piggyback off of that. So like when we talk about Bruno, at first when you first hear it and it did the roundabout and everyone is singing, of course Camilo part comes out the loudest to me, and then it was Tia Peppa and then Theo Felix. But then like through TikTok I was like, oh, I didn't realize Dolores was singing and had a different line, and she's so quiet when she speaks, because of the hearing thing. But I like, just to piggyback off of what Prince John said, like I learned how to take my ears and just focus on Dolores's part, and Dolores comes into my left ear, and Isabella's part comes into my right ear, and so I can hear them saying their parts, and they're both saying the same thing at different times, saying I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, But it took me a while to realize it. So like now when I listen to the song, I only hear Dolores. I don't even hear Camilo anymore. I don't even hear Theo Felix anymore, or Tia Peppa. I only hear Dolores' part and Isabella's part. But if I really focus, I can only hear Dolores. So I think she can, if it's just like what they said, selective hearing, like learning to cope and learn how to deal with it, especially when they had their powers at such a young age. I think they can learn what to tune into and what to tune out.
I would also agree. Basically just in that, like, they're receiving their gifts at 5. What all did any of us have mastered really at 5 years old? Let's just really be honest.
I could do the Rubik's Cube. Not anymore. I'm lying. I used to.
Excuse me then. Well, for the rest of us out here who aren't solving Rubik's cubes, really, when you think about it, when you're 5 years old, right? You don't really so much have like a mastery over so many things really that young. You kind of got the basics, but then as you get older, you improve on those finite skills. So just like Louisa has figured out basically how to master her strength with whatever task she necessarily has to handle, or the Isabella was just like, okay, all of my flowers are perfect. That takes time and practice. So I would also think that Dolores would be able to do the same thing in terms of knowing when and when not to listen. Because clearly she can be paying attention to everything else is going on, and then stalking Mariano all day, every day, with everything she's doing, and then she popped up like this.
She was like,
I think because she can listen, I think it also fueled her personality of being a gossip and nosy as heck. Because if you can listen to everything, why not? Why not? If it's interesting, like we all do it, like, you know, if you hear something and you're just like, oh, hold on, wait, let me.
That's me all day. That's me in the classroom when the kids are talking and I hear the gossip. I'll be sitting there pretending like I'm sipping on something. In actuality, I'll be tuning in and I'm like, huh? What?
Right.
What? On the
tea be hot, fresh. You like, oh, she said,
bringing a whole gallon of tea.
I do the same thing at work.
And I know for a fact that she was tuned into all of Bruno's soap opera dramas and stuff like that's something I've been seeing on TikTok. A lot of people
those memes like is their love could never be. Why could it ever be?
Right, and then Willa's like, Dolores, huh? No.
Some dust flew my
Exactly.
Right. So it's like, you know, she loves the tea, the gossip, even in that scene where Augustine said, no one can ever know. And she's like, ooh. It's like she lived for it because how did she I know she could hear them. So she knew how to be right there to just sit because what was she doing in that hallway? Nothing. Yeah. Just sitting there.
And it's funny because she just stops and she looks just like, I know. And then she does that.
And then just, you know.
but here's the
scene at the dinner table, like before it became
drama.
I was listening. I was just like, and she looks at me, and I look at him, and he's looking at me, and I look at him, and I'm just like, this is getting good.
But you know, I would argue because she did what she did at dinner, and because she knew it was going, she knew Bruno was there the entire time. The song shows that she knew that when she was there. I think she was ready to start everything off. Like, I think even subconsciously, she was like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this nonsense. You're causing harm. And I can, at a certain point, you boil over. I cannot keep this to myself. Like, this is not petty drama. This is not petty, you know, village gossip. This is like, oh no, this could be detrimental. And I am not of age to be the kind of person to hold this to myself. No. And so she's like,
and then not only that, she's about to get engaged to the man that I love. I can't hold this anymore. I need to do something to.
Exactly. And cousins be petty, and you know they may not fully understand what, you know, she had done. Like, oh, you know, whatever. It's like, no, okay, you want to be with the man that I want to be with, including that Bruno gave me a prophecy that I'm going to end up not with the man that I love. Let me shake something up real quick.
Let me change my fate real quick.
Right.
And I love the fact you brought up the song because, you know, Dolores mentions we don't talk about Bruno. The following line, it's heavy lift with a gift, so humbling. Always left Abuela and the family fumbling, grappling with prophecies they couldn't understand. Do you think she was trying to let Maribel know to help clear Bruno's reputation, or do you think she had to keep this to herself when no one else would really listen to her?
I think that's probably what hadn't necessarily happened, because if you look through the communications between Pepa and her family and Julieta and their family, Pepa's family pretty much talk about everything, because you saw how quickly that word passed down the table. Because Dolores was like, wait a minute, hold up, my little brother's a jokester, but I gotta spill this right quick. That's enough. That's enough trust there that he immediately said, because if he was worried about anything, he wouldn't have immediately told his father. He would have sat there quiet and said, we're gonna take care of this later on. It would have been one of them, would have been kids save the adult adventure things that we always see. He said, no, Dad, you are not gonna believe this right quick. And then Fails passed it over to Peppa. Where was I going in this rant? I was going somewhere. I was going somewhere, and I'm upset.
Well, while you figure that one out, Twin, I don't think that she was trying to convince Maribel. I think that she probably had heard Bruno from the beginning, and she may have tried to tell, you know, as Demarius was saying, they're the family they are the gossipers of the family. And I feel like she may have started to tell them. And of course, she was young when Bruno first disappeared. So you're going to dismiss what your child is saying. Like,
exactly.
You're hearing something else. You're hearing the house settle. You know, like, no, I can actually hear him. He's talking to the rats. Any reasonable adult is going to look at a child and be like, talking to the rats? What? Because, you know, they don't know that you can talk to animals until Antonio comes around. So to hear Bruno talking to the rats is like, yeah, okay, baby.
Right.
You know. So at a certain point, I feel like she just got kind of tired and fed up of being disbelieved until Mirabel is now making a conscious and active effort to figure out what had happened. And so she's like, hey, you know, I can hear him. And here's what I'm hearing. And I don't think she was trying to like sway or change Bruno's perspective in Mirabel's mind. I think it was just more so a factual statement.
Yeah.
I can hear him.
Like I can hear him. So he is close enough for me to hear.
Right.
Well, to put a pin in that one, because I personally think when she said I could hear him now, I think she was actually referring to the person that she was in love with, which was Mariano as opposed to Bruno. But in terms of going back to the Claire and Mirabel thing, there we go. I'm here. I came back. I would say that she was trying to change her perspective, because as far as Mirabel knew, she was like, okay, so Tio Bruno left, and I don't know why, because she was too young to remember, and or she was never told. Then it was her conversation with Luisa, and it was like, yeah, so like there was something like he had a vision, and then that's why he left. Then she went to seek him out, and she's like, wait, why am I in your vision, bro? And so I'm certain Dolores is probably hearing all these other different conversations, which is then why she just pulled Mirabel in close and said, hey, by the way, though I like, so I'm going to change the grammar a little bit. Though I've grown up to live in fear of Bruno stuttering and stumbling, I can sort of hear him sort of muttering and fumbling. Then she's recognized the sounds she's hearing that's in the movie. And then that same verse you said, such a heavy lift with a gift so humbling, oh, such a boil in the family, fumbling, grappling with process they couldn't understand. She was like, it's not everyone else. It's not Bruno's fault why everything's going crazy. Y'all just don't understand what the man is really saying.
Can I double back to what Demarius, right?
Yes.
Right. Make sure I'm gonna make sure I got it right. I want to go back to what you said when Dolores was saying I can hear him now. Is more like with Mariano. I think Disney or the writers, that was the double entendre. So like, even though I can hear Mariano coming right now, but I can also hear Bruno, I can hear him now. So I think definitely it was relating to both.
I can agree with that in a sense, but in terms of what her verse is in that part of the song, her part of the madrigal, because the madrigal is actually when a group of people are having a series of different lines sung together in the same point.
That is correct. Yes.
But her particular line, she said, she's like, it's like, he told me the man of my dreams. So I guess he told me the man of my dreams would be just out of reach, betrothed to another. I can hear him now. But the whole time she's been stalking Mariano from across town, hearing him write his poetry and love his mom and talk too loud and get ready to go to sleep. And probably whenever he gets up and a lot of other things that she probably should not be listening into, because what is she doing? Because what is she doing? She's being a stalker. I dropped my flower. But all that going on, and then she knows that Mariano was planning on proposing to Isabella. Why? Because she's been stalking Mariano for however long. Understanding that then her prophecy was coming true, saying, okay, the man of my dreams is, betrothed to another. I can still hear him. And she was probably going to keep stalking him in the event that he ended up marrying Isabella.
You gonna let that go or not?
Now I have to ask this, because y'all talking about her at the dinner table, and when they asked her how many kids he want, and she went like that, he wants 5. Do you really think she heard him say he want 5, or she was just like, I'm about to start some shit? He want 5 kids, and you saw Mirabel like, and then Elisa and all of them was like, and because you saw her with that flower. Abuela had to grab that flower from her hair because she was just like,
hold on, wait. I'm telling you, cousins are petty. And so she was like, I see this prophecy playing out. I do not like it. So let me shake the table one time for the one time. I truly feel like Dolores did it on purpose. It wasn't something that she just kind of passively did because they're the family gossip. It was like, no, I see this happening and I got to stop it.
Combined with the stress of why is Mirabel looking out for Theo Bruno?
Right.
It was both those things crashing together. But I will die on the hill of Dolores being a stalker. I will die on that hill.
I mean, she literally has a power here. I'm not a
she's within the law. She was not near his facility.
They live in the Encanto.
No, they live in town.
She has the power to listen, and it's
And they
not
said
like
she can listen from miles away. So
tap. She didn't put an illegal tab. She just used her power.
She is the illegal tab. She is the illegal tab.
I'm not going to argue this with you.
She's like, I am 3 miles away. I am within my right.
Her family runs the town. She's operating from a space of governance. She's violating rights here. She's a stalker.
If you guys remember or if you recently watched Dolores's initial verse, and we don't talk about Bruno, if you look at the banister, you can see
you see Bruno, he is jamming.
And he's in the background, like, and so there's been some debate I've had with my friends who are like, no, that's Camilo preparing for his part. I don't agree, only in that the same place that you initially see Bruno in that scene is the same place where his entry level is for the painting later in the movie. Mm-hmm. So it's just like he heard the vibe, he saw what's going on.
He came out, that painting was like, hey.
Right. Like he literally, it's very well known, or at least it's implied that he maneuvers throughout the house without being seen. So it's not too far-fetched to think that is him vibing. I mean, he has literally a dinner plate next to the actual family table. And I'm sure they've talked about him when the children were not old enough, of course. Next, like he's heard them talk about him the entire time. I think if they're singing a song, he's vibing. Literally, I'm sure he has heard that Dolores is the only one who knows that he is there in some capacity, like even subconsciously. So of course he gonna shake a little bit when she's singing about him.
I personally don't think that Bruno's gonna be rocking out to his own diss track.
Hey, the way he was doing the things with the rats and everything, yeah, he probably had one of his side identities was like, that's a bop. They talking about me. I'm used to them talking about me, but at least it's in song.
All right, so we'll say that was Jorge or maybe Hernando.
It's probably Jorge.
Probably Jorge.
It was
probably Jorge.
Mm-hmm.
Jorge is the bonehead of the trio, so that's
yeah. I think it was Jorge. He was probably like, "This is a bop." Okay.
But at the same time, it was like when Bruno was explaining to Mirabel about what happened to his vision, he was like, "I saw it." He was like, "I knew how it would look. I knew what everybody would say. They would say that I'm Bruno. I mess everything else up, so I left." Mm-hmm. And then when Mirabel found his drawn-in place plate with his name on it. Right through the painting of the wall. Mm-hmm. It is breaking my heart every single time. When the camera pans out and you see Mirabel in focus, if you look back behind, Bruno looks ashamed of the fact that he wants to still be close to his family, though he feels like he never really can be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So all of that is going on in his mind and everything else, which then goes back to my point of, I don't think he's rocking out to his diss track. I think he's probably crying back in the corner because here they go again with the choreography and the rehearsals they have every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Like,
hey, that probably was his only time he felt like he was part of the family. He could be in the background dancing. He's a background dancer.
Trying to get it out of
our No. The ultimate background dancers are the donkeys, because why are the donkeys throwing swaggers during service?
Whole 8 counts,
Whole 8 counts.
Going ham, like,
and giving face. They were throwing swaggers, going ham, and giving face. I don't get it.
Like, wig was thrown. Like, Jesus.
Sorry. Talk about how Lin-Manuel knew what he was doing. The man's a genius.
Have you listened? They had to wrench him singing from them because the demos. I love Lin-Manuel. I love his writing. I love his arrangements. I do not like his singing voice. Yeah. I don't like his speaking singing voice. So people have found the demos.
Leguizamo was like, I got this. I got Bruno's portion.
Right. Like they found his demos. People have posted about him on TikTok. Apparently someone had tweeted him about it. He even tweeted and quote tweeted that saying, I see what y'all done with my demos. I'm not posting them no more. Like, I love his musical genius. Sir, please stop.
No, because he put his foot in the soundtrack. He put his foot in this soundtrack.
He put it in Moana. He put it in this soundtrack. Everything he touches, it's shoot, like those memes said. Y'all finally getting the freaking soundtrack from his last masterpiece out of your head, and then here comes We Don't Talk About Bruno, kicking the door down.
But here's the thing. I will say for me personally, We Don't Talk About Bruno hasn't become my favorite bop just yet, but it has been on repeat today, and I do not know why. It's probably because that bridge to the Madrigal is the best part of the whole song, and that is the hill. Mm-hmm. That's the hill I would die upon. Like right after your fate is sealed, when your prophecy is read, from Isabella to Dolores to Camilo to a boy, that whole set right there before it rolls into the whole thing.
Isabella, your boyfriend.
Yes. There's a trumpet player, and maybe after this, I'll find a TikTok video and post it on the Facebook post or whatever as a comment. There's a TikTok trumpet player who literally played each part, and he takes it up for Camilo's part, talking about the boyfriend. Isabella, your boy. I'm like, yo, please, yes, give me more. He's amazing. And I love what this movie has done for the musicians of the world. And, if I don't see some bands doing some type of fanfares, an Encanto show, something, y'all listen up. Y'all better get to arranging.
Look, the fanfares are something from We Don't Talk About Bruno. You can even just have just that one line right there. That'd be what it is.
Right, Isabella, your boyfriend, had that one line, just that one line.
But personally, go right into. Personally, my instrumental jam is Colombia Me Encanto. Like that whole song is a bop from start to finish. From start to finish.
Yes.
It's like you feel it build, and you hear the horns, you start feeling the drums, and the lyrics start rolling through, and it's just like the movie needed more of that song in the movie. I'm like, why'd I have to wait to get the full version on the soundtrack? Y'all gave me just the 45 in the movie when it's like the whole 3.5. Like,
I mean, some of that's going to be Disney executive, because even they've all stated that there were parts that they wanted to see in the final edit that didn't happen. So,
like, did you know all of you was supposed to have been 7 minutes? They cut it down to 4.
Chopped it all. I'm like, give us more. If y'all can give us all these movies that are 3 hours long, Marvel movies with not a nan soundtrack outside of a bunch of, y'all can give us an extra 4 minutes of song.
And here's the thing.
And the uncut DC version of movies.
And here's the thing. Disney knows we are going to spend our hard-earned American dollars and also the other dollars that we've got and everyone else around the world to go see these movies.
Yes.
They know this. And Disney also knows they're going to capitalize primarily on the millennial generation. Why? Because the majority of us grew up during the Disney Renaissance. Disney had their various eras, but for right now, really, the majority, from what I can see, the majority of their most prosperous properties came up during our childhoods.
Facts.
So they know that we, us 20-somethings, 30-somethings, and like maybe like low 40-somethings. I don't really know because I'm not running those mathematicals right now. They know that we are pulling us to the movie theater. They know that we don't stream it. They know that we're going to enjoy this movie, which is exactly why, just like you see that one post going around saying is like, all the writers at Disney must be millennials, because you know what this family fun movie needs? Generational trauma.
Like, the older I get, the more I can relate to King Triton. You 16, why are you trying to run off with this? Sorry, all right, I'm back.
Watching Disney movies when you are an adult is surreal, because when you're younger, you're like, you're 16 years old. You love that man.
And the 40-somethings are here for it, though.
I appreciate y'all 40-somethings.
Right.
I really do.
We love y'all, Zennials.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We love y'all. But yeah, it's like, and you watch it after the fact. Even Aladdin, you're like, you're gonna trust some random old man in a jail and to go to. How does he mystically, magically know the escape route? But how long has he been in jail? So you knew how to get out this whole time. And
why is the old man trying to date the 16-year-old and trying to marry? Like, I don't like where this is going. But see, that's
right.
I'm trying to say why did Ariel sign a contract? Why Ariel sign a contract and ain't read that thing?
Exactly.
Like I know the average person,
like I said, you can tell when Disney's movies change. It was like it started with, like you said, Frozen. I'll even say Lilo and Stitch. You didn't have the typical girl has to find someone to fall in love with in order to be. You saw it with Moana. I ain't trying to be. I'm trying to save my people, and that's all it is. I'm not trying to date nobody, trying to love nobody. I'm good, deuces. And and you've been seeing it with every movie since pretty much Lilo and Stitch. The the typical Disney formula of always the woman has to marry or fall in love within 2 minutes of meeting the guy and everything. They have
side.
Exactly. So it's like you're getting the Zennials, you're getting the generation, millennials and everything. You're getting all of those generations are coming into Disney, and it's like, yeah, I grew up on that, and
look at my life.
Why in the world Snow White wake up from the dead and you got some random guy kissing you? You were dead.
Necrophilia. Necrophilia.
If you knew the truth behind Snow White and Sleeping Beauty.
Listen, the real stories are yes, it's an after dark conversation, but it gets real gruesome real quick. That might be an after dark.
We're gonna have to talk about that because a lot of people keep forgetting those children's movies from back in the day were based on a more gruesome story. I
told my 11th grade classes we did a whole lesson on mythical I can't talk anymore. Mythical culture, like myths, like the QB and everything like that. And I told them about Sleeping Beauty, not Sleeping Beauty. Was it Sleeping Beauty? Yeah, Sleeping Beauty. I said, she got raped and she ended up having a kid while she was sleeping. They were like, that didn't happen in the movie. I said, Disney made it pretty.
Disney not gonna do that.
Disney made it pretty.
Disney made it real pretty. Snow White is tragic. Cinderella is tragic. Popping off parts of your feet.
True.
And then the
Little Mermaid is tragic.
Little Mermaid is beautifully tragic. It's beautifully tragic.
She didn't live. She did not live.
But she's working towards gaining a soul. There was an upside. No, she turns into the daughter of the air. She becomes a daughter of the air, which gives the opportunity to earn a human soul, which is really what she was trying to do.
John's eyes are all the way back in their head.
Anderson wrote that as a love story to his gay lover.
That he did.
I'm just here to say the real stories are always more gruesome than you think. And that's why I'm excited for
everybody. We will have,
because give me more. I need more.
Yeah.
We'll
do another After Dark, so we're gonna dive into that for you.
Yeah, we need some Disney deep dive After Darks because
but yeah, we're gonna have to have another After Dark just to talk about the Disney truth versus movie.
Disney truth.
Because even what they did to Scar, if you read the novels that came out after the movie, his name not even Scar. He has a whole other name. His name means trash. His actual real name
means trash.
I'm telling you, Disney. It's a whole.
Disney beautifies was like, ooh,
right.
I'm gonna Cinderella this bad boy, and boom, it's about to be a movie.
I mean, they did also make Zeus a loving father, and
Hera
a wonderful and gracious motherly figure. When
we all know the truth with them 10 Heracles' 10 labor.
I hate Pocahontas. I hate Pocahontas.
There's only one scene that's real. We do not trust these white people. That was the only scene that's real. The only scene that's real.
I really like the movie. It's
a beautiful movie, but it is historic.
It always has some banging soundtracks, but what happened?
It is so inaccurate.
Was not what happened in that movie.
Pocahontas will always be a feel-good movie for me. I'm sorry. It is a terrible movie historically. It really, really is. I just enjoy watching it.
I hate that Disney did something to Pocahontas. I hate that they glorified Pocahontas
and made her older than what she really was.
I know it's bad.
It's bad. Like if you decide to be, I'm going to say morally reprehensible and take out literally all the context, it is a very beautifully cinematographically art, great, beautiful. The music is great, but then when you actually look into it, you're like, oh no, Oh no! Oh no! 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 No!
Exactly.
It's
Like,
so bad.
like Mari says, Pocahontas soundtrack makes you forget the real story.
Correct, Mari. Correct, Mari. It's really the soundtrack. Mari.
When Pocahontas came out, my co-teacher at the time, she was a little white Jewish girl, and she said, "Oh, she loved Pocahontas," and she's telling the story to the class, and she said, "I love Pocahontas so much." And there was a point to it, and she said that I dressed up as Pocahontas for my Pocahontas' 3rd birthday party, and as she's telling the story, she slowly looks at me, and I slowly look at her, like, "What are you trying to say, white woman?" And all the kids in my class are looking at me. They're like, "Miss Lewis, don't do it." I'm like, "Did you seriously do as a Native American woman and celebrate the fact that this grown man sat there and tried to sat there so he raped this woman?" And she was like, "Yes," and I was like, "What?"
Oh my god!
Oh my god! She's like, "I'm so sorry," but the whole point of her telling that story is that we showed the movie Pocahontas, and we talked about what was historically inaccurate about it and why Disney glorify it.
The N-word was too stunned to speak. I just
Gasp.
My students were like, "Don't rip into her. She didn't know any better." I was like,
I'm shook.
"You got to."
Drink your water, twin. Drink the water.
Yeah, but Encanto, awesome movie.
Exactly. All right, let's get back to Encanto.
Oh god.
All right. Before we made our lovely segue, we're gonna bring it right back since you were talking about the donkeys. With Antonio's ability to talk to animals, couldn't Antonio have talked to the town donkeys to help her out? Why or why not?
There's the question. Dang.
Yes.
I feel like I feel like when it comes to Antonio, it's very much like he's 5. So everything is from his 5-year-old perspective.
Right.
And obviously the rats have told him what's happening and what's going on. But I feel
don't eat those.
How much access did he actually have to the donkeys is my question. Like the donkeys were like, the only reason why we saw them is because Louisa was getting them because they had escaped from their pen. And Antonio's 5. This is a different time period, but I don't know how much leeway you're giving a 5-year-old to go run amok into the world, and so how much access
the way
did
the
he
umbrella
have?
was being, and once you turned 5, you have responsibilities.
Because she said, "What?" Will was like, "I'm certain we'll find a way to put your gift to good use." However, on the same point about Antonio only being 5, Antonio is going to be the first of the Madrigal lines to be given a gift to be able to use it freely.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true.
Yep.
Lizzette, what you got?
So you notice at the dinner table, he was the only one who didn't really speak or say anything at the dinner table when that whole thing went down, right? But somehow the animals just knew to go into Uncle Augustine's pocket and put things together. I think Antonio was secretly telling the animals, like, "Look, I think they have a secret. Go ahead and see what's going on." Like he was talking to them under the table.
He's the other half of the Madrigal. He's part of the gossiping family. He want to know what's good. They're not gonna tell him because he's 5, but he's like, hey yo, I need you to go do the thing. And I know y'all can see. Come on, tell me what's going on. I'm sure in that scene, I am sure he influenced them and was talking to them to get more information to figure out what was going on. And then of course he is. I'm going to argue, if not 2-3 generations far, because there's a 5-year gap between when Maribel didn't get the gift, because he didn't exist when she didn't get the gift, to when now it's his time to get the gift. So there's a whole generational gap. Like me and my brother are 5 years difference. So yes, technically in the lineage of the family, they're are a second. No, me and Marcus are 5.
No, I'm talking about Mirabel and Antonio. They're 10 years.
Either way, my point stands. The generation is different. So he's technically, although yes, he falls in that line of family in terms of like chronologically, he's the 3rd generation of the trauma and the bullish and whatever. So it's just like he wants to know what's happening. He wants to understand what's going on. And the animals are obviously telling him what's happening. I'm sure he can talk to insects too. I'm sure they see what's going on with everything. And so unfortunately, he's attached most to Mirabel, who's he's going to help his favorite cousin figure this out. She wants to figure out what's happening, so I'm gonna help her figure out what's happening. Uncle Augustine got the tea, and they not telling me what's happening because they think I'm too young to find out. Ayo, my whatever animals, ferret things or whatever. Go figure this out for me. I don't know what they were.
I don't know what they were either.
I'll do you one better. The toucan, when he flew out of Bruno's room, went to Antonio and was like, "So,
hey, yo,
here's
your
what
cousin.
I saw."
I was thinking the same thing. He sent the toucan to go chase after Mirabelle, like go find Mirabelle and see what you're doing.
Right. And then toucan came back. He said, "Okay, who else knows some stuff?" He's like, "Well," toucan be like, "Well, I saw some rats." So, okay, well, tell the rats to pull up and tell me what happened. And the rats pulled up.
He is the godfather of gossip.
Right. And then they back in the corner behind the house with the cracks, and he just pulls up and says, "You guys can use my room. Rats told me everything.
Don't eat those.
Told me everything.
Don't eat those." It's for your nerves.
So the rats was like, "Oh my God, somebody's talking to us beside Bruno."
Rats away the whole jaguar, chilling. Which I love his room, and I want his room. Can we talk about the rooms? I want his room.
But I think that's why the rats like told everything. They were like, "What? You understand us other than him?" Oh,
finally,
we're gonna tell you everything.
Their guts. I know they're like
they started complaining about all them telenovelas. Is what they started doing. They was like, "Is why Bruno keep putting me over here? Like, I'm not a blonde. He knows I'm a brunette. Why he keep putting me in this costume?"
It's like that TikTok sound. Like he obviously, I'm not sure Bruno is gendering his rats appropriately because he's like, "I have a vagina." Like, you know, it's like I'm sure he's not gendering his rats appropriately. It's like why am I being in this role? I'm not I'm sorry.
Bruno didn't care. He's like, everybody is non-binary. You're playing every part.
Right.
And your love will never be.
And the rats was like, "That's my cousin."
I can't.
Not Game of Thrones.
So I said he was watching Game of Thrones.
Screaming.
I'm dead. I like how you say you screaming and not a single scrump was done.
Because I'm screaming internally. I'm screaming internally.
Mm-hmm.
You
scrumped. Okay.
See.
Oh my goodness.
I scrumped internally.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's do one more question as we're getting close to the end.
We're friends.
So many of us connected, as we talked about at the beginning, to this movie because due to the generational trauma and the sibling struggles. How did you connect to the movie, and which character did you connect the most with?
So
Bruno and Mirabelle.
Okay.
That was me. I'm the outcast of the family. I ran away, and everyone blamed me, and no one liked me because I was different. Period.
And how did you connect to the movie?
How did I connect to the movie?
Yeah.
Well, one, like I said, I do have some Latino. I have some Latino background, right? So of course, the music for me was just like. And the movement, I teach, and one of the things I didn't say in the beginning is I teach dance. So I'm a Zumba instructor. So I've been teaching like salsa, bachata, all that. But to see the movements and everything like that was just so beautiful for me. The way how they used the skirts and the clothing was just gorgeous to me. But overall representation, like granted, yes, Disney still owes me for the freaking Princess and the Frog. I hate that movie too, but we ain't gonna talk about that right now.
That's going to be in our Disney discussion. We're going to have the real to fake discussion. We're going to do that.
But I do love the representation. I love how this is like this is the first Disney film where people who looked like me in some capacity, Theophilus, love him for hair, and you have Antonio, Camilo, Dolores. They look like me. They could be me. They could be people who I know. The students I mainly teach are from Latino backgrounds, who will be Mexican, Venezuelan, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, some of the Colombian. I got to show the movie in class. I was really happy about that. We're talking about family trauma. We're talking about family trauma, and then we played in the Heights, but we won't talk about that neither. for me, to seeing the representation was so important to me. The representation, and no one turned into an animal. It was completely like Maribel. You could tell that she had the curly hair. And I love how people who are 100% Colombian or 100% Puerto Rican, they could also relate to the movie too. And I'm like, great. You see how receptive this is, Disney? Let's have more of this.
Mhm.
I love Soul, but that's Pixar. I love Soul. I love the fact that he turned into a thing, but then he came back, but then they switched bodies. I still love Soul. So for me, Soul was good. Soul was great, but I didn't watch Soul last Christmas 20 times in a row as much as I watched Encanto. I watched Encanto at least 20 times. I'm not supposed to say how many times I watched it. I watched it enough.
You done said it 3 times already.
No shame.
Right. So I connected. I connected because of family. I connected the way how people looked. I connected how the movement, the music, and overall the story. Like I had said beginning, like Abuela reminded me so much of my, the mother figures in my life growing up who saw me as like a threat. Because here's this girl who has ambition and goals at 4 years old. What do you mean you want to be a teacher at 4? I want to be a teacher. Nothing was going to stop me. I'm living my dream right now. So, and just seeing how at the end they were able to mend the ways. And yeah, of course, this is a Disney story, and how the family got together, and family is so important. So for me, the reason why Encanto really related to me was just the representation, family, the music, the movement, the clothing, and just everything, which is why for now, now I can honestly say this is my comfort movie. Like I had COVID 2 weeks ago. What did I do? I sat there and watched Encanto, and then watched Law and Order, and then went back to watching Encanto. Right. So,
Law and Order to break it up a little bit.
Yeah.
You're watching SVU, then, right?
Huh?
SVU,
yes.
right? Of course.
Okay.
OG.
What else you gonna watch? Let me put on the
OG.
Plus.
That's not SVU.
Organized crime. Like what? No.
So yeah, for me, it definitely was. It was a comfort. Like people, like my son, definitely. I'm not coming into your room. You're dancing all over the floor again. I'm like, Ma, I can't do this with you. I dressed my son up as Antonio and took pictures of him after I bribed him $20. But but the fact that what happened?
Have you posted the photo shoot?
No, I can't yet because it's part of a bigger project that I got invited to. Oh. So yeah, so I dressed him. His part is Antonio. There, someone asked.
I got a little sneak peek. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I did put a sneak peek out there, but only for my friends on Facebook because I was so happy with his achievements for that. I was like, you know what, you get a sneak peek. Look at my son. You don't understand what he's doing, but I put a little afro. I made it all curly and everything like that. Yeah. And he had a little monkey, and he was sitting there. He was dancing, and I was like, oh my God, here's $20. Yay! So the fact that he was willing to do that. He was willing to do that for me. I was so happy. And he's like, I know how much you like Encanto. So, yes, mommy, I'll do this for you. And I'm like, yes. All right. Yeah, and I have everything now for my 3 Encanto cosplays. So this weekend, I'm going to be busy.
I think for me, I most relate to Luisa being the middle child. I am the middle child. I am the responsible one of the family, not intentionally. I know recently I've become kind of like a linchpin for my family for a lot of breaking down of generational trauma and stuff like that, and holding us to and it's not something that I was, again, told to do. I just felt like I wanted to do this. I wanted to help my family process things through my own processing of my own nonsense or, internal issues. And it's, it really hit hard seeing myself in Luisa, feeling like if I don't hold it together, the family will fall apart. If I am not useful for the sake of my family's, needs, if I am not good enough, if I falter, if I crack under the pressure, What will happen? And that question of what could happen if I stop is something that my therapist consistently asks me that I never have an answer to, because I do not want to think about what will happen. Because if I do, my brain will automatically think worst case scenario, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen. You know, being the therapist of the family is a thing. Being the business-minded person of the family is a thing. Being the, okay, let's discuss potential end-of-life things. Let's discuss family, real estate planning things. Let's discuss, whatever. So it's like, because of who I am, I have that role. That's just my personality. But the pressure that puts on me because I decided to take on that role when I really don't have to. And my mother has told me on consistent times, stop it. And I can't help it. Working on family stuff right now, actually, between them and my little brother and stuff that he has going on. So it's just like, and that moment where Louisa says, give it to your sister. Your sister's older. I cried. I boo-hoo sobbed because I have verbatim, I promise you, I have verbatim stated that to my little brother. I was like, Mark, I got you. I'm going to help you figure this out. You know, I've even offered, it didn't come to fruition, but I even offered to help him move here to North Carolina to live with me, sleep on my futon while he got his life together. Like, I am Louisa. Man, I saw myself manifested within her. And I'm just like, ooh, I see how this is toxic. Let me talk with my therapist and stop this habit before this becomes a thing. So, and I'm 95% certain my mother will never see this. So if y'all know my mother, keep this to yourself. It was really painful when my mom talked to me about watching Encanto, and she refused to acknowledge that our own family has generational trauma that gets passed down. And the metaphor I had to tell to her was, you're choosing to look at the sesame seeds on the hamburger. You don't want to acknowledge the stories about generational trauma. You don't want to acknowledge the stories about the elder abuse that's been passed, the emotional abuse that the elders are passing down because of their own unhealed issues. Because you want to talk about, oh, it's a nice family and the magic or whatever. And I think for me with Encanto, I'm not as satisfied because, it didn't cause the same reaction within my own family. I was hoping and praying that watching that would cause a light bulb moment of like, maybe, but that didn't happen. Granted, yes, growth is a thing, and when you're ready, it will happen, and it'll click one day. But it was hard to see, and I think it's kind of the same thing for the story of Encanto. You don't want to admit that you cause harm to your children or your grandchildren or whatever. And that's been a constant discussion with me and my family. It's been very much like, no, you did your best. I recognize you did your best. What you did at the time was valid, but please understand there are consequences that you could not have planned for, and I need you to acknowledge the harm that was happened just so I can move on with my life.
Yes.
So that's why I like Encanto and why I relate to Louisa the most, because I may not have physical strength because I am a noodle, I'm a straw bean pole, but I have a lot of emotional strength. Any of the twin can talk to it. Dana has seen it like almost physically manifested. The emotional strength that I have, the care that I give to others is almost the same kind of superhero power that Louisa has physically. And maybe that's probably why she has that superpower, because she may physically manifest the emotional toll of carrying her family. Ooh, that's going to go on my TikTok later.
Because you know me so well, twin, I really don't appreciate how you struck all of my chords and my heartstrings with that whole rant right there.
Pew, 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 pew.
But I love you. I appreciate you for it. And once I get back in the queue, my own therapist, we'll talk about this one. But for my character, so I'm sitting here watching the movie. I'm like, la 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 la. Okay, hopefully I'm gonna chime in with the antagonist. Okay, the antagonist feels like they're a disappointment to the family. Okay, I can rock with that for right now, this present season of life that I'm in. Okay. then that is twin to explain about Louisa, because like so of course, like in my case, like I'm the oldest of all of my siblings. I'm the oldest of the grandchildren. I am one of the closest to my grandmother, who is my present matriarch at this point. So there's a lot of pressure on that aspect of, for lack of better terms, the weight of the family, in short, rests upon your shoulders, and it may not wholly rest upon your shoulders now, but it will at some point, because as I was explaining to you guys before we came on here today, so like, and so like of course as it goes, like eventually with me being the oldest of the grandchildren, and then with the anniversary of my own mother's passing coming up tomorrow, and then also like past my grandmother, a lot of responsibility is eventually going to escheat to me, which then further kind of pivots around, because it's like I could talk about, like, I'm identifying with some aspects of Bruno because I'm also in a Bruno season of life, but I want to talk about my homegirl Isabella. reasons why I have on like this, like the pink spot shirt, had the flower here beforehand, because Isabella has low-key become my favorite character, because the entire time I watched the movie, I'm just like, here she go, and here she go, and then Bruno happens, and she's failing to read the room. And then she's just being rude to people and everything else. But when she had that moment of open honesty with Mirabelle, she was saying, she's like, she said I had been stuck. I felt that emphasis in her voice when she's like, I've been stuck being perfect my entire life, because I will say for me, like some of the expectations I've had for my family was like always doing my best. But at times it felt like whenever it was just slightly under whenever like it was my best for the time, but didn't rise to the expectation of what it was, that always then felt very, very detrimental. Some of it was either from critique from my own family. Some was also just me just being too hard on myself. Yes. An overthinker. I am a Virgo. I'm a perfectionist. Don't say I'm sorry for the Virgo thing. I will snatch up these earrings. Don't do this right now. Don't do this. I will boost you through the screen.
You're not wrong, twin.
I will boost. Look, actually, no. I will drive to you. Don't do this, John. I will drive to you.
It's only 6 hours. Let's go.
And I got a tank of gas. What's good? You know what? Y'all have a good night. I'm just playing. But with all of that, and when she was going through her moment, the line that sticks out to me the most is when she says, "What could I do if I just grew what I was feeling in the moment?" Like beyond all of the expectations of everybody else, beyond all the expectations of rising to the occasion, beyond anything necessarily being perfect, what could I do if things could just exist? And I'm finding myself in that also in a similar season of life in that same front. Like, look, you're not perfect. You ain't perfect. You never will be perfect. You got to rock out to it. But then it's like, but what if? I also remember having conversations with my therapist the first round of therapy that I went through, because like we were talking about different things that were going on. She was like, "Why does that matter?" And I'm looking at her like, because that's fine as it relates to that thing, but why does it matter? I'm like, but she's like, okay, that's fine, and I understand that, but why does it matter? Eventually drilling me down to the question, she's like, and it's okay to not have an answer for why it matters, because if it doesn't, that is also okay. Yeah. But the only thing that is keeping you from your own happiness is the barrier of others' expectations.
Yeah.
But you yourself have the power to get beyond those expectations to reach your best life, because at the end of the day, the only one who can live it is you.
Yes.
True.
I'm doing therapy on my lunch break in my office, try not to sob and boo-hoo, so if nobody hears me through the other side of the door, because my therapist is preaching to me right now. And I will say that whole moment there, once we got through that song, What Else Can I Do, which is also my personal favorite banger, really recharacterizes everything else that Isabella had been doing, because the entire time she was like, I need to live up to the expectations. I must be perfect. I must practice. I must do this. I must do this. I must do that. Otherwise, I run the risk of not only letting my family down, but letting my grandmother down. And then possibly subjected to the same kind of treatment that my Tio Bruno that I actually remember because I was old enough to remember him had then been subject to because he didn't reach expectations.
Right.
To the point where she literally said, when Mirabelle said you can still marry that big dumb hunk, and she said, I never wanted to marry him. I was doing it for the family. That said so much about Isabella because she was like, none of what I have been doing is anything that I've been wanting to do.
Right.
None of who I am is really who I manufactured. But I was willing to sacrifice my own identity for the sake of the family to meet their expectations. And I don't know what that was, but that's when I tell you that hit me right here. Right here. And Isabella's whole story has been dragging me by my new growth because it's a lot to be said in just that short moment. Mind you, does she got some things that she has to work on? Yes. But is there so much more to her character? Oh, absolutely. It's beautiful. And when we get finished with this, I'm about to put it back on my Bluetooth speaker and dance around the hurricane of Jacarandas because that's my jam. It's my jam.
Real quick, one thing I just literally just thought about is that when you look at Isabella's power of like controlling plants and everything, and you look at like, you know, ecologically, it is an ecosystem only survives by its diversity. And the fact that she strictly only put up flowers, and not even like, you know, different flowers, but literally almost the same flowers in different colors. It's the fact that she, you know, sacrificed her own health. That's almost a manifestation of her sacrificing her own health and her own well-being for the sake of, oh, that's pretty. Meanwhile, when she really comes into herself and starts exploring, you know, her powers and stuff like that, an ecosystem survives based off of the different plants that live off of each other, the different root systems that are developed because they're all different things and provide different nutrients, and the canopy of the trees versus the moss and the scavengers at the bottom that kind of have that balance. Isabella is a manifestation of being out of balance.
And at the same time, once she comes into that understanding of what the balance looks like, she then creates new things. Because just like Bruno prophesied, he said, he told me that the life of my dreams will be promised and someday be mine, failing to read them well. He told me my power will grow like the grapes that thrive on the vine. It's revealed in What Else Can I Do that her powers would grow, because once she stopped just making flowers, started just doing stuff, all the regular plants, like it's the jacarandas, the figs, the vines, the pomegranate, etc., all the rest of that was just happening. But when she did that river of sundew and just made a sundew flower that moves, that doesn't exist like that in nature at all. And she just said, what else can you do? Right.
The cough, cough, power of creation. Cough, cough.
I like that. And then she burst through her room and said, okay, and new color flower. We're riding on some vines, which I'm just like, wow. So really, that weight of that expectation was keeping you in this itty bitty little box. All you really had was orchids, roses, and mayflowers.
And when you keep a plant in too small of a pot, it dies.
Yeah.
But
message.
And then once she was freed by the right hands, because the one thing I will also say about the sibling dynamic of this movie is that it's a wide variety of different kinds of sibling dynamics, but they're all good and bad in their own ways.
Yes.
So the best dynamics were probably definitely between Dolores, Camilo, and Antonio, because they were just chilling and vibing, probably because they weren't under the weight of Wayla's expectations.
Yeah.
And they were also the youngest, so you know.
Yes, but Luisa trusted Mirabelle enough to eventually let her know what was going on.
Right.
As also did Isabella, which then brought their relationship together. But then Mirabelle also said, like, I see what's going on, but now I better understand it.
Yeah.
And now I'm not going to fault you for some of your actions because I have a better frame of context and we can be like this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to commend you guys. Thank you for sharing so much and, you know, going so deep, especially with like your own personal lives and everything like that. As somebody, I am also in therapy, have been in therapy for about 5 years now. And I definitely been dealing with my childhood trauma, dealing with everything. So I wanted to share that as well. So I want to say thank you so much for sharing what you guys have been going through and how this movie really helped connect everything that we've been talking about. And just to piggyback off of what you said, DeMarcus, in regards to the flowers and how they're all different and everything like that.
Mhm.
Damn it, I lost my train of thought. No, wait, I got it. No, diversity. Just like how the different, like how Isabella grew the different flowers, the diversity in the movie was like so important, because without diversity, like the human race, we can't thrive. We can't thrive. So
Yeah.
I wanted to piggyback off of what you said as well.
Perfect. Well,
Indeed.
everyone, wonderful discussion. Of course, as we saw in the comments, a lot of people were engaging. They're feeling it. I love our last comment, which I have been shown on the screen, because another person, family member of the Moana Nui podcast, who had decided to go and get their doctorate on indigenous cultures and breaking those generational traumas. She's the one who's posted this, talking about mental health is so taboo in so many of our communities. So when we talk about generation trauma, there's often silence or deflection of acknowledging that it exists. So we are the generations that is finally trying to get those generational traumas and curses broken.
Agreed.
But with that, everybody, thank you so much for this engaging comment. Of course, as we already seen, that people were getting into the Disney conversation. So once we end the show, I will be talking to y'all about scheduling us to do another Disney After Dark, to get into those Disney shows and movies that don't portray the real story. And we might have to dig into that and go to town on that. And then, of course, as we were talking earlier before we came on, we're definitely have to do an Avatar: The Last Airbender one. So,
we'll need a separate episode for Korra. We will need a separate episode for Korra, because she deserves her things.
I'm here for it.
Because she deserves her things.
Yes, Korra. Yes. And I was talking to a friend, which is another little tangent, but I did not learn, the person who did, you heard at the beginning of our new intro, Mr. Steve Bloom, who did our intro. He is actually the voice of one of the villains from Korra. And then when I found out, and he's also the voice of Orochimaru from Naruto.
And which villain is he?
Which is, oh gosh, what is his name?
Eye? The one with the eye?
The one that has the cover with the mask on. Dang it, I can see it in my head.
Amon,
that's it. Amon. He's Amon.
No, wait. He was Amon. I thought the guy who played Mr. Robot was Amon.
No, he is Amon.
No, the guy who played Mr. Robot was the leader of the wolf bats, the water bats.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and he's the animated version of Wolverine. Of course, he's known for being Spike right here from Cowboy Bebop too. So, I'll definitely have to let him know when we start talking about Korra, because I have to see if he'll get in the comments and talk.
If he'll pop in, I'm here for it, please, because I have so many Amon thoughts and questions, and hearing it from the voice actor would be like, well.
Yeah, I'm about to message and be like, look, we're gonna be talking on this day. So but yeah, we'll talk after we get off live and figure out what days work for everybody, so we can dive in with the rest of the audience a little bit more into Disney real versus the fantasy of Disney, and then a lot also Avatar and Korra. So thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank our panel right here for giving your insight, diving deep, a lot of laughs and a lot of connection through this. So for those who want to, can you tell the audience how they can follow you on social media and all, as far as whatever platforms you prefer? We're going to start with Lizzette right below me.
Marius, I'm sorry. I'm tired. I can't remember names anymore. I apologize. I know I told you about this, and I'm so sorry.
Okay, Lizzette, you can follow her. She is Sailor Ecstasy on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow her and her amazing cosplays and everything. And TikTok.
I'm TikTok famous. No, I'm joking.
So follow her on that. That way we can let her get some sleep. All right. Our royalty, Prince John.
Yes, so on Instagram, you can follow me on Prynz John, on TikTok, and on Twitter. You can follow me on Zem Noir. I am changing my name right now so that you can actually get it because it's spelled funny because I'm me. So Zem Noir on TikTok and on Twitter. And Facebook is for friends. Sorry, I love y'all, but Prynz John Leepz, John Leaper. But I make no promises on accepting requests because we be, shit posting, and I am not always safe for work, and I don't want the feds after me. What I do? What I do, twin? What you looking? You see my post? They'll be coming for me. Whatever.
Yeah. And for the twin, Demarius, how can they follow you?
So if y'all want to try to find me, I also echo a lot of the same sentiments about with my twin about Facebook's for friends, but you can find me on either Facebook or Instagram just by searching my first name, last name, Demarius Newsome. You can find me on Instagram at Oh So Fortunate. It's gonna be with 3 O's, 2 underscores, and an FOUR. Yes, I'm complicated because that's the person that I am. And then for those of you who like Avatar also based content, I also did a little bit of work with the official Avatar Last Airbender YouTube channel for the Four Nations Forum. If you want to go pop over and check that on YouTube, kind of like in a similar fashion such as this. Otherwise, I'm just posting memes and talking about stuff that fills my head. It's the person that I am and how I live my life.
There you go. And kind of get in some Disney conversation and stuff. So everyone, once again, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for engaging in the comments. We definitely had some great comments and everything on here. We'll definitely let y'all know when our next episode with this lovely panel that we can dive into the Disney folklore and what we see on the screen. And that way y'all can engage with us even more there. So thank you again for joining us this evening. You all have a great evening, and we'll see you. And everyone, aloha. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good night.